Hey guys, Dylan from Noble Records coming at you with another video. I've been wanting to do this one for a while. This is my top 10 albums of 2020. A lot of great music came out in 2020. And here are 10 albums that just kind of resonated with me. I'm not saying these are the best albums. I think they are, but it's just my opinion. I've seen a lot of top 10 lists, and a lot of my picks are not on any of those just because I'm weird. A lot of people ask me, do you listen to new music? Because I'm always talking about old music and funk and soul and psych and all that stuff. I do listen to new music. I try to listen to as much as I can just so I can be well acquainted with it when people ask for it at the shop. But these are just 10 that really stuck with me this year and that I spent a lot of time listening to. So number 10 is Sturgill Simpson's Cutting Grass. I'm going to show a picture of it right here. Most of these I have vinyl copies for, but there's a couple that I don't because they're at the shop right now, and I leave them at the shop and play them just during the day. That one came out later in 2020. It's probably why it's not any higher on the list, but it's just bluegrass renditions of Sturgill Simpson's catalog, just different things from different places. But I really like that because everyone's always recommended Sturgill Simpson to me. And I've listened to a lot of his albums in the past, and they're good. It's just one of those things that I haven't really clung on to it yet. And this album I absolutely loved. So I'm sure it will get me into the Sturgill world that everyone's ranting and raving about. But for me, if it doesn't stick, it doesn't stick. I can't help it, you know. But this album did stick for me, and I really loved these songs. And it kind of opened me up to the world of Sturgill, so I'm listening to a little bit more kind of with that in mind, because it is the styling of what I really like in that, you know, Americana type thing. But this is just like straight up neo bluegrass, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's great stuff. So that's number 10, Sturgill Simpson, Cutting Grass. Number 9 is Kornman Mordecai. Kornman is a really cool band out of Houston, Texas. I mean, I'm sure most of you have heard of Kornman. But they have just like I think they call themselves like a psychedelic funk, modern psychedelic funk instrumental group. But really interesting stuff. The instrumentation is absolutely phenomenal. The thing about this album is it's the first album they've done that they sing vocals on, because everything in the past has just been instrumental, which has been absolutely great. There's a couple really good songs on this album, and I really enjoyed listening to this. This is just one you could put on, and you know, your foot's tapping and you're vibing to it. It's a really great album. This came out a little earlier this year. This is the indie record store exclusive. Texas Sun. This is by Kornman and Leon Bridges. This is an unbelievably killer record. I mean, it's a neo soul record just with a little bit of extra funk, great instrumentation to it. But man, it was just such a magical combo between those two. This is an EP, so there's only 4 songs on it, but that's probably why I didn't put it high on the list. But this is one that we played over and over again in the shop. It's just one that it doesn't seem to get old for me. And it just had just a really cool vibe to it. And just with Kornman as the backing instrumentation of it, and Leon Bridges is just a fantastic modern day soul singer. It was great stuff. Match made in heaven. This one's Hedvig Molestad. This is I talk about Hedvig Molestad trio a little bit. They have a really good album that I just got acquainted with maybe a couple years ago. But it's called Smells Funny, and it's like really good proggy, psychedelic-y, jazzy. I mean, it's wild, but it's all instrumental. This is just the guitar player, Hedvig Molestad. She is incredible. This gets classified as jazz a lot online. You see everything says that it's jazz. I would not call this jazz. It has jazz elements, but there's a lot of like heavy fuzz guitar in here. There's a lot of prog elements, a lot of psychedelic elements to this album. It is absolutely phenomenal. Rune Gramophone's a cool record label that I've become acquainted with, but this is one album I haven't heard anyone talk about. And it's one that, if that seems like your thing, that you like psych and prog. I would call it jazz rock, but it's not, you know, it's only because there's horns in it and stuff. It's not real like hard bop jazzy or anything like that. It is like jazz, prog, fusion, psych. It's really, really a cool instrumental record. It's real spacey. It's like jazz space rock. Let's just say that. Really cool. But you got to hear it. I can't describe it. It's really good. So, Hedvig Molestad, Echidna. Number 6 is Monophonics, It's Only Us. This is one of the coal mine releases I always talk about. Coal Mine Records is a label that you should keep your eye on. They do a lot of neo, funk, soul type stuff. And this is one record that came out early this year that absolutely blew my socks off. And this is another one I try to keep in stock in the shop just because I love playing this record. And without fail, every time I put it on, someone wants to buy it. It is really, really good. Neo, funk, soul, amazing arrangements. It's out of control how good this is. But this is really cool artwork on here. And a lot of the front covers have a different picture. So that's kind of cool. And this is a promo copy that they sent me. But this is a really, really killer album. And this is one, you know, you hear a lot of when it comes to the neo soul stuff. You know, Durant Jones, stuff like that. Really good. This is the same label. But this is just a little bit more on the raw side, but really, really good stuff. Number 5 is Black Market Brass, Undying Thirst. This album is amazing. It's Afrobeat funk, and it's instrumental. It's amazing. It's one that it is groovy. If you're a drummer or a bass player, you might love this record. But it's got really good horns in it, really good rhythms to it. But I mean, it's just that it's modern Afrobeat funk. It's absolutely killer. And this is one that, you know, it has funk elements, it has psychedelic elements to it, but it's a very, very, very good instrumental record that I highly recommend this record. But this is one of my favorites. Number 5, Black Market Brass, Undying Thirst, and this is also on Coal Mine Records. Number 4 is Jason Isbell and the 400 Unit Reunions. This album, I was so excited for it to come out. They did the Indie Record Store exclusive, the Dreamsicle colored vinyl. That's what this is. It's really cool. But anyways, I've been looking forward to this album coming out because Jason Isbell is one of my favorite artists. But this album, I mean, his songwriting is so fantastic. He's young, but he's such a seasoned songwriter. I can't wait to see what he does with the rest of his career and all that stuff. But every song on this is one that I connected with. That I learned every word of just because it just stuck with me. I mean, and you guys know what that's like when you listen to a lot of music. Not everything really sticks with you, but this album, really fantastic stuff. And I think that it perfectly clicks in with the rest of his discography and all of his other albums. It clicks in perfectly with those. Very, very, very good record. Great songwriter. Jason Isbell is truly. He's one of my favorites. I think he's one of the best songwriters that is living today. He's just fantastic. Number 3, I don't have a copy of this because mine's at the shop. Bonnie Light Horseman. This is their debut record. Bonnie Light Horseman is a super group consisting of several members from His Golden Messenger, Fruit Bats, Shins. Anyways, a lot of these bands I'm not like super into. But for some reason, this record is really good. It's a laid back acoustic record, but just really stripped down indie folk. I mean, it's an incredible record. This is another one that every song just really it got stuck in my head. Like I love listening to it. When I first heard it, I listened to it over and over and over again. I mean, I still do a lot of times play it in the shop, and I try to keep copies on hand. So this is one of my favorites this year. Just some of the best songs, and just one that when I hear it in the future, I'll think back on 2020. And I remember the good things, you know. So that's not really a good compliment to think back on 2020, but I will think back. I mean, because when I hear the songs now, I was listening to it heavily, you know, during quarantine and when the shop got shut down and all that stuff. And I do remember a lot of good times during that time when I was spending with my family. So it you know. It's the good stuff that you remember when you look back on the past most of the time. And this may surprise you that it's not number one, because this is an album that I've ranted and raved about all year. You guys know Slift is going to be on there. Liftuman, really great modern psych band from France. This record, first time I heard it, it completely blew my brain out. I mean, it was a special moment the first time I heard it. And I was like, I got to get a copy of this, And I looked everywhere, couldn't find any copies because they're in France. So they've been hard to get over here. But I have found a way to get some copies for the shop. Right now we have them in the shop, and I think I might have a couple copies on my website. I'll put a link below for the Slift records, because I got a bunch in here recently. If you click on it, it says out of stock. I'm sorry, because they'll go fast. But this is a really tremendous record. They have such a big sound, but it's psych garage with a little bit of prog and doom in there a little bit. But it's just such a strong record. The album art, look at this album art. And, if you know me and you've watched any of my videos, I've been talking about this record nonstop all year. It is just so good. And it's another one, I hate to keep saying this, but literally, if I put this record on in the shop, I will sell 3 copies before it's over, because everyone is like, what is that? That is so incredible. But it is, I mean, even if you're not in that type of thing, if you're just like rock and roll, it is a killer rock and roll record. I feel like it pulls people in that aren't even necessarily into it. So I've had a lot of customers come in and they buy it and they're like, I'm not really into psych, but this is really good. So this is a great record. And when I discovered this, I went and listened to the rest of the Slift records. They have 2 more. And just a really, really, really cool band with a great sound. It's a trio, and it's just, it's mind-melting stuff. So Liftuman is my number 2 pick. Number 1 is David Ramirez. David Ramirez, My Love is a Hurricane. This came out earlier in 2020. And David Ramirez is one of my favorite songwriters anyways. I had a couple, I think 2019 is when I discovered him. I got his album Fables, and I ranted and raved about that. That is just such an amazing record. But I heard he's putting this record out. I was really excited about it. I was able to listen to a few of the tracks before the album came out, and I was just obsessed with them, listening to them all the time. When the album came out, it was just on repeat. And every song on this record is a strong song. There's not a lot of albums that are like that every song is just so well written and so well done. I mean, his phrasing, his melodies, oh my gosh. I mean, the dude's a genius. His songs are amazing. And this album was produced extremely well. As I was, ranting and raving about this, I got to meet David Ramirez, virtually, not in person, but I had him on my podcast. So, and that was really cool just to be able to talk to him about songwriting and the production of this record. And I mean, there's some killer keys in there. Just the way it was put together and the way it was produced is fantastic. But this album, all year long, I've been listening to this record, and every time I put it on, I'm like, dang it, this record is so good. And I hear things I didn't hear before, but this is just this has become one of my favorite records of all time. It's that good. So David Ramirez, My Love is a Hurricane. If you haven't heard this record, you don't want to miss it. Check this out. And the vinyl's available. You can get it, anywhere. So, honorable mentions. Forgot the honorable mentions. I just have 2 honorable mentions here. One, obviously, I had to bring this up, and I almost put this in my top 10 because I listened to this record so much this year. This is Tom Petty, Wildflowers, and all the rest. This is the 3LP version. I have the super duper fancy pantsy box, 9LP box set. It's at the shop and it stays there, and I listen to it all the time. But this is just so killer because, Wildflowers has always been maybe my favorite Tom Petty record, probably definitely my favorite Tom Petty record. And it's one I've listened to a ton through the years. And the copies are nearly impossible to find on vinyl. I had one, but anyways, nearly impossible to find. And there's always been this rumor and this fable that there was a second part to Wildflowers that Tom Petty wanted to release called All the Rest. And so it has been years of anticipation for this to come out. Finally, it came out, and this is long story short, this year. So All the Rest, it's not a new album. That's why I didn't put it in the top 20. It's an old album, but this is the first time we're hearing it. So I was so stoked when this came out, and it's just so crazy that, you know, if you have kids and you're like, you have one kid and you're like, I love this kid so much. If I have another kid, there's no way I'll love it as much. And then you have another kid and it's like your heart doubles and you love them both. And that's how Wildflowers and All the Rest is like, how can I love something this much? And then it's just like you hear the second half and you're like, oh. So that's how it was for me anyways. That's a really weird description probably. But anyways, and then also this reissue / issue of Randy Holden Population 2. I've talked about this a million times this year as well, but I had to mention it. Just this album, it's debatable of whether it was ever released. And this is the first wide release of this record ever. I had a little bit of a hand in releasing it. So this is amazing that it got released. But this is one of my favorite records of all time. And it was great to see it released this year. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this wasn't too late for you. Coming out almost at the end of January, but I just want to talk about my top picks of 2020. These are some great records. If you haven't heard them, stream them, listen to them. Follow us on Instagram. We'll see you next time.